What's up guys, how you doing? Welcome to another video, and this is the big one. I think this is the video that people were most excited for me to make about the Canon R7. We are comparing the Canon R7 with the Canon 7D Mark II. The Canon 7D Mark II has been a fantastic little camera for me, and there are so many people who love this camera. It had a real cult following within the Canon DSLR crop sensor camera users, and we never got a 7D Mark III. People like me were gutted about that, but now what we do have is the Canon R7, the new crop sensor mirrorless camera in Canon's R series mirrorless range, and I suppose in certain ways it is in effect the 7D Mark III. So how do they compare? Today we're going to talk about some of the different things to do with these two cameras, the image, the performance, the speed. Of course, I'm going to be doing it in a sports photography focused way because that's what I shoot the majority of, but I think that's what a lot of people will be looking for, right? People who want something like the 7D Mark II are probably shooting something like sports, maybe birds or wildlife or some other faster moving subjects, and that's where something like the 7D Mark II and the R7 are probably the right sort of cameras for you. So let's just quickly talk about the two cameras. Well, first of all, there is an 8-year difference between the two cameras. The 7D Mark II came out, I think, 9 years ago now, and the R7 came out last year. So we've got an 8-year difference between the two of them. I'm going to talk about the kind of differences into sort of different categories. I'm going to talk physically about the cameras. I'm going to talk about some of the image quality differences between the two of them. I'm going to be showing you images that I took with both. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how I compared the two. This is not a scientific test. If you're after that type of test, this maybe isn't the right video for you. This is a test where I took this camera with a 24-70mm lens, and I took this camera with a 24-70mm lens, and I went and shot a basketball game. Compared the two, and I'm going to tell you what I think in real terms. If you want that scientific test, this might not be the video for you. Right, before we get into all that, I'm going to ask you guys to do all the usual YouTube stuff for me. Hit the like button, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already. Loads of stuff to come on my channel, which I think you might enjoy. Right, let's get into this. So first of all, let's just talk about the two cameras physically. What's the difference? Well, first up, the 7D Mark II is a bigger camera. You can see if I put the two of them together, the 7D Mark II is certainly bigger. In terms of weight, they probably feel about the same. I will put the actual weights on the screen right here so you can see. But in terms of real life usage in your hand, I would say they feel about the same. You'll see physically there is a size difference. The R7 is smaller, it's not as tall. If I put the two of them together like that, you can see the 7D Mark II is taller. It's thinner. And in terms of the width, it's not quite as wide either. So I'm going to be showing you some B-roll of them sort of compared as we go. Other physical things like some of the buttons, you have roughly the same selection of buttons. There's a lot less buttons on the back of the R7, but you do have this like keypad thing that enables you to move around a lot of the settings. So whilst you don't have buttons for some of the immediate settings like you do on the 7D Mark II, you can still get to most of those settings really quick through like the quick menu and then scrolling through the options. But if you like a button, then there are less buttons on the Canon R7. Another physical difference will be the memory cards that these two cameras take. With the old 7D Mark II, you had one CF compact flash slot and one SD card slot. With the R7, you get the two SD card slots. For me nowadays, that actually works better because my R6 is working on the SD cards, and so it means it's all compatible across the two and it works really well. Another key physical difference is the fact that you have the articulating screen on the Canon R7. Now this is something I've got used to with my R6, and so I just kind of love it now. The fact that I can shoot something like high up and I can use the screen to see what I'm doing. The fact that if I'm recording video I can see myself like I'm doing right now. I can see myself talking over there on my Canon R6. So I love an articulating screen, so that for me is a big advantage between the R7 compared to the 7D Mark II. Another change, of course, is the actual batteries. So with the 7D Mark II, it uses the older Canon LP E6 batteries, whereas with the R7, it's using their slightly newer battery. It's the same as the R6. So specifically, so the older battery is the LP E6N, whereas the newer battery is the LP E6NH. I believe this battery is supposed to have slightly better battery life, but the good news is they're compatible. You can use the older batteries in the new camera, you can use the newer batteries in the old camera, and if you've got something like an R6, you can use the same batteries R6 to R7, and so that's pretty good news. The batteries are cross-compatible. Okay, so that's most of the physical differences. So how did I test the cameras? So here's what I did. I took the R7 with the new RF 24-70 f2.8 lens. That's a newer lens, and I get it. Some people, your scientific test guys out there go, you've used a different lens. Yeah, I did use a different lens, but I used the lens that's probably most likely to be used with the R7. And on the 7D Mark II, I used the EF 24-70 f2.8 lens. So on both cameras, I used a 24-70 f2.8 lens, but on the 7D Mark II, I used the EF version, and on the R7, I used the RF version. So yes, different lenses, but same lens type to get the most even comparison that I could. I thought if I used the EF lens on the R7, well, that would have worked and I would have got some good images, but would it be testing it in the best way for the R7? It feels like I'd almost be trying to hold it back for some reason, so I thought I should test it with the RF lens. I can't show you the EF lens because I'm filming this video on it right now. It's on my R6 with you guys over there. But specifically, it's the EF 24-70 f2.8 Mark II lens. So still a very good lens that I shoot all of my pro sports with. So great lens on the 7D Mark II as well. Okay, so from here, I went to shoot a basketball game and I shot some of the game using these two cameras from some different points on the court. So I think at this stage, probably the best thing for us to do is turn around, have a look at the computer, and I'm going to show you some of the images so you can see the images that I took with the 7D Mark II and the images that I took with the R7, and you can decide what you think of them. I'm going to start now and tell you that I will be showing you edited images. The reason I'm doing that is because I always show people edited images. If I've got images, I'm not sending them to anybody straight out of camera. I'm editing them, I'm sharpening them, and so if no one's ever going to see an image that's straight out of camera, why would I test it on images that are straight out of camera? I've edited these images in Lightroom and I'm showing you the edited images. Again, not a scientific test, just a real world, can I use them for sports test. Right, let's spin round, have a look on the computer, and we will look at the images. Okay, so let's compare these shots from the R7 and the 7D Mark II. So, action shot with the R7, something with the 7D Mark II is here. So what's the comparable shots? Here we go. R7. 7D Mark II, fairly comparable shot. Look, decent images out of both of them, right? But I would say the R7 is giving you some slightly better image quality than the 7D Mark II. It's not much different, especially in these lower light situations. They're very, very comparable, but let me show you where they do come into their own. So similar image. This is the 7D Mark II, and this is the R7. So if you go in close, now look, there's a lot of noise here, right? But this is with the R7. If you're looking at an image, the way you're going to look at it is like this. It's not bad. If you go into the detail up here in the crowd, there's noise, or down here into like the hand and the ball, there's some noise. But overall, that's not bad. If you look at it with a comparable image here on the 7D Mark II, you see, look, that's a lot worse, right? You've almost lost the detail in the image here across the hands and the ball. The face isn't too bad, but it is a lot worse than the R7. So that's where there is quite a difference, is the low light performance between them. A couple of direct comparisons that I did. So I shot this image here with the 7D Mark II, and then if I compare with this one here, so here we go. So this is the 7D Mark II, and this is the R7. If we go in for a bit of detail, you'd almost say there's more detail in the 7D Mark II, but don't forget these are two separate photos, so it could just be where the focus locked on a bit better on the 7D Mark II. That's slightly zoomed out. I'd say actually look very comparable. Let's compare another one that I did. I did one of the Coach. So another two comparable images. So there's the 72 on the left and the R7 on the right hand side. So look, pretty clean images, very similar from both. I've run the same preset edit on these, and based on my preset edit, maybe the colors come out slightly better on this one. But let's go in close. Here you go, this is where you start to see a real difference. So we've gone in close here. This is the 72 on the left, and this is the R7 on the right. Look at the difference in the noise in the face here and across the collar compared with the R7. There is a definite difference, right? The low light performance in particular, there is a step up when it comes to the R7 versus that 7D Mark II. Okay, so there we go. So look, some comparable images, right? But I think probably we have established, and you would probably agree, that the overall image quality coming out of the R7 is better than you're getting from the 7D Mark II. I love my 7D Mark II. I love the images. I've shot images for years with this camera. But image quality and the standard of images that we're getting is better on the Canon R7. We touched briefly on low light, but let's just jump back into the laptop because I want to show you a couple of specific things when it comes to the low light performance between the two cameras. Okay, so you guys who've watched all these R7 videos, you're going to have already seen these photos, but hey, look, I just wanted to show you. So we're going to go in right in close on these and we're going to really take a look. So this one here was shot at ISO 8000. ISO 8000, we're in real close. Look, that's really good for 8000, right? We've got one here. This is also 8000. I think this one's the 10,000. Yeah, here we go. 10,000 ISO. So that's what it looks in real close. Let's move around the image a fair bit so you can see the detail. There's the fingers. There's the overall image. If we go in some of these darker areas, there you go. Look, I'm going to let you guys judge this, right? That is 10,000 ISO. I would say that's pretty good for 10,000 ISO on a crop sensor camera, but there it is. Okay, so there you go. You've had a look at the low light performance. And I think we're at a stage where we're establishing that the two cameras are good, but actually, you know what? The low light performance, which is a big talking point. Low light performance was always the hot topic, probably the biggest thing that was talked about with the 7D Mark II. Well, you know what? It is a substantial step up with the Canon R7. If you're worried about low light performance and you're thinking, yeah, but the 7D II used to struggle in low light, is the R7 just going to be exactly the same? You know what? In my opinion, you get a substantial step up in low light performance with the Canon R7. Some people would disagree with me. That's what I think. Low light performance better in the Canon R7. Okay, so I suppose we should round off with the burning question, is which one should you buy? Well, you know what? We're going to have people out there in one of two different situations. You're either going to be somebody who owns neither of these cameras and is deciding, hey, which one of those should I buy? Or you're going to be somebody with the 7D Mark II deciding, should I upgrade to a Canon R7? Well, I'm going to talk about the second category first, because I know there are loads of you guys out there who watch my channel who use the 7D Mark II. And I think if you upgraded to the Canon R7, I think you would be really pleased with it. If you use the 7D Mark II now and you're happy with the results you get, well, you know what? You're only going to get better results with the R7. You're going to get image quality that's a bit better. You're going to get autofocus that's a lot better. You're going to get low light performance that's better. And the rest of the camera absolutely is fantastic. If you're someone currently shooting with the 7D Mark II and you've got the budget to move up to the Canon R7, I do not think for a second that you will be disappointed. So what if you're somebody who owns neither of the two cameras and you're deciding which one to buy? Well, in summary, I cannot think of a single reason why you would buy the 7D Mark II instead of buying the Canon R7 when it comes to performance, image quality and everything like that. The only reason why you would maybe consider this camera would be budget. Now, there is a big difference when it comes to budget, so let's round off by talking about that. If you want to buy yourself a Canon R7, new, there are a few used ones out, but it's a fairly new camera, so generally you're talking about buying one of these new. It's going to cost you about £1,300, £1,250, something like that is the cheapest that I've seen it right now. If you want to buy yourself a 7D Mark II, in most cases you're going to be looking at a used one of these because there aren't many new ones of these around nowadays, although you might find one on eBay somewhere. You'll be able to pick up one of these for just a few £100. So you are talking about £1,000 difference between the two cameras. So if you are someone who's just starting out or maybe wants to try shooting sports for the first time, and your budget is a bit of a question, well, you know what, the 7D2 might not be a bad place for you to start. I think at some point pretty quick, when you start to move up into better quality cameras, nowadays you can get some great sports cameras for a reasonable price. We're talking sports photography, right? So we're not talking cheap price, but a reasonable price. Something like the R7 is really, really fantastic. So I think that just about rounds off our 7D Mark II versus our Canon R7 video. I hope I answered the main questions that you guys wanted to hear, but if you've got other questions that I didn't touch on, do me a favour, let me know in the comments below and I will try and come back and answer those questions for you. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button for me, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. In the meantime guys, thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next video.